Have you had an H1B case denied because USCIS determined that it wasn't a specialty occupation? Hi, my name is Hassan Abdullah. I'm the president and managing attorney of the American Visa Law Group, and I'm preparing this video to give you some good news. USCIS has lost some major cases recently this year having to do with the specialty occupation issue. A lot of people might not be aware of this, but it is very positive news, a good development, and we can use these cases to defend the specialty occupation issue. So just what is a specialty occupation, and why is USCIS being so strict on what a specialty occupation is? Well, there's a backstory. The backstory is in 2017, USCIS released an internal memo. The American Immigration Lawyers Association did a Freedom of Information Act request, and they discovered this memo. And basically what this memo says is that if USCIS looks at what is called the Occupational Outlook Handbook for a particular occupation, the specific occupation they were looking at was computer programmer, but it can apply to any occupation. If the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is a Department of Labor publication, says in the section of how to be someone in this field, if it says that employers hire people with an associate's degree sometimes, that's enough to say that, well, therefore it's not a specialty occupation. And the thing is, specialty occupation means, according to the regulation, we have to follow the definitions of regulations. It means a baccalaureate or higher degree or its equivalent is normally the minimum requirement for entry into the particular position. I'll repeat that. Under 8 CFR 214.2 H4(3)(a), a baccalaureate or H1B specialty occupation qualifies if a baccalaureate or higher degree or its equivalent is normally the minimum requirement for entry into the particular position. So how do we interpret that? What does that mean? Well, common sense says as long as the normal requirements for entry is a bachelor's degree, it should qualify. What does normal mean? Think about normal. Does normal mean everyone has to require it as a minimum entry requirement? Or does normally sound like, typically, on average? Well, obviously, normally means typically, on average. USCIS, for some reason, seems to be applying this standard of, according to that memo that came out, that everyone has to have a degree for the job in order to prove it's a specialty occupation. And you have to also show that you require a degree in a very particular field. That is far more narrow than what the regulation says and what Congress's intent was. So we have two cases, actually there are more than two cases, but two leading cases that I'd like to discuss here is InfoLabs versus USCIS and 3Q Digital versus USCIS. InfoLabs was a case for a systems analyst. And systems analyst, according to the Occupation Outlook Handbook, says people with an associate's degree could do the job, but most systems analysts have a bachelor's degree. The court basically eviscerated USCIS in their reading, and they said that it's very obvious this is a specialty occupation because although some people can get into the job with less than a bachelor's degree, that doesn't mean that just because there's a specific number of people who are in this field who don't have a bachelor's degree, it doesn't mean that a baccalaureate isn't considered a normal, typical, ordinary requirement. So USCIS had been shot down by the court in that particular case. But what if you don't have an Occupational Outlook Handbook profile for the particular occupation? Well, that's where 3Q Digital is relevant. You see, 3Q Digital was a case under a specialty occupation code, search marketing strategists. And there is no heading, there's no profile for search marketing strategists SOC code 15-1199.10. There is no profile for this occupation in the Occupational Outlook Handbook. So USCIS arbitrarily said, that's all we can look at, so you got to prove it some other way, which is nonsense, because the court said there's also ONET. So let's look at ONET. And ONET is also a government publication by the Department of Labor. And within ONET, if you research this occupational code, you'll find that it is in Job Zone 4, which means a bachelor's degree is considered a typical requirement. Now, the thing is, to further narrow it down, according to the court, all you have to do is prove that there is an inherent limitation to the kinds of degrees that will qualify you for the job. As long as there's an inherent limitation, it can qualify as a specialty occupation. So for example, if a job you could get it with a bachelor's degree in biology just the same as a degree in art history, it's not a specialty occupation. But if you can say that, well, you need a degree in some technical engineering or computer related field, and if you had a degree in biology, you wouldn't really be qualified for the job, that's enough. And how do you determine that? You look at the ONET description, you look at the knowledge section, and you look at the skills section. If you can narrow it down and you look at the knowledge and skills section and you find that in the knowledge and skills section, it looks like a knowledge base is particular enough and narrow enough to encompass specific types of educational backgrounds, then you can argue it's a specialty occupation. I came up with an approach based on these case laws, and that approach is what we're going to apply going forward. And it's a new test, you could say. I kind of enumerated this test, and it's on our website, usavisalaw.com, and you can read that test there. That's what we're going to apply, argue these cases, and we expect we're going to be able to fight back on USCIS on this particular issue. And hopefully USCIS does, apply the more proper standard rather than the impermissibly narrow standard according to the courts. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you would like to discuss this further, you can call the American Visa Law Group to speak to one of our attorneys, 510-500-1155. You can visit us online at usavisalaw.com. And like, subscribe, share this video with people who might find it interesting and valuable. And thanks for watching. And continue following our videos. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care.